Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zoe Muro. And now, here's Zoe.
Folks, good to see you. So good to see you. Welcome to the New Thought Media Network. My name is Zoe Muro, and I am delighted and honored to be your host for Choice, Your Creative Superpower, coming to you from Oakland, California each Thursday, 12 noon Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time. We are here to explore how you can wield your superpower for the greatest good and co-create a life experience that is most fulfilling. If you're coming back, great to have you here again. And if it's your first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad that you've tuned in. Hello, Fiona. Fiona is one of our magnificent practitioners here on the New Thought Media Network, and she is just an absolute linchpin in our organization. She's spectacular. Good to have you here, Fiona. Hello, Shay. So good to see you. Hi, Linda. Good to see you as well. Happy Thursday to you. All right. So I am a religious science practitioner with the New Thought Media Network, and I'm also a transformational coach. Both my ministry as a practitioner and my mission as a coach are to help people to live their lives to the fullest. So today, in episode 62, we'll be exploring the relationship between choice and technology. Now, before I get into this topic, I just want to be absolutely clear and come clean about this. I use technology every day. I mean, I would absolutely say that my life has significantly been enhanced through the use of technology. There's no question. I also find technology to be frustrating. I find it to be way too pervasive and sometimes persuasive. And it changes so much faster than I can keep up. In other words, I'm pretty much a typical old guy who knows, just enough to be dangerous. But then again, I never hold myself up to be an expert in anything. So just bear that in mind. We're going to be exploring here. We're going to be seeing what comes up, seeing what resonates, looking for our best options for a fuller life based on what we choose. Now, when I was doing some research on this, I was very surprised to learn that the word technology goes back much farther than I ever would have thought. In the 1600s is when it first occurred, and it meant like a discourse on art or on arts. By the late 1800s, that's when it started to take on a meaning that's much closer to what we might recognize. It was the study of mechanical and industrial arts. All right, so we're seeing things being created, machinery and such. In the 1960s, now we've got the term high technology, because we were starting to see how significantly things were changing and how they were becoming a mainstay in our lives. By the 1970s, things had become so standardized and so much in place that, of course, we had to come up with a different, slightly different term. So now high tech replaced the high technology term, right? It seems that every time we have a piece of technology that's been around for a while, we have to change it the way we say it. So when I was a boy, we got a television set. Then we had a television. Then we had a TV. So we always find ways to change how we're going to look at these things. Divine right use of technology. Yes, that's what we're going for. All right, so let me see. All right, so we're talking about technology and the meaning of it and such. As is the case with many words, the meaning of high tech will continue to change as we create more advanced technology and the predecessor technology becomes, well, it's commonplace. I mean, think about it. We're completely surrounded by technology, from the materials and processes for our structures to the way we heat or cool our homes, our water supply, our lighting, on and on and on. In my lifetime alone, I've seen the rise of some of the most amazing technologies. The computer that ran an entire multinational company that I worked for years ago had less computing power than I have in my phone today. It's astounding to me. As amazing as X-rays were when they were invented in the late 1800s, I mean, think about what a fantastic benefit that was and how that made so many different choices for doctors. Right? But then consider how much MRIs, sonograms, ultrasounds, and all of those add to the diagnostic capabilities that we have today. The journey that personal transportation has taken over the past 50 years alone is absolutely staggering. And each time that there is a change in how technology and transportation are used, there's a change in how we behave. We have choices that we did not have before. Want to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible? We run through our technological choices. And we decide what's the fastest way to get there? What's the most comfortable way? What's the most convenient way? Whatever it is that we need, technology is going to be pretty happy to respond. Now, I would venture that anyone who has lived more than 25 years has likely seen a tremendous change in the technology landscape. And at least the younger generations not only expect innovation as time goes by, but they look forward to it. It's a very definite paradigm shift. And for me, as a child of the 1950s, actually, it's just interesting to me that I have to say 1950s as we're getting closer and closer to 2050. But I digress. As a child of the 50s, I've yet to see some of the most incredible advances that we had predicted, because I love the old sci-fi movies. But we are closing in on many of them, no question. I mean, I think about how badly people drive on the roads today. I can't imagine what they're going to do when they have flying cars. But I've been reading that those will actually be a viable alternative, relatively short order. Technology is in so many very strange places. My wife and I were in a restaurant the other day, and I almost got run over by this little robot that was delivering a bag from the kitchen down this long hallway to the person at the other end. Why they couldn't just walk, I don't know. They had to have a robot do that. Whatever. Today, I want to explore just how choice and technology interact, because the considerations for our life, how these things affect us, they're pretty significant. Excuse me. This is what I was laughing about. Linda says, "Do you want some of the things the Jetsons had?" Oh, yeah. Well, if you think of a Roomba, that's pretty close to the automatic vacuum. So we've got a lot of it. Hmm. We're going to talk about social media, most certainly. All right. So one of the few places where choice relative to technology is most often taken out of our hands would be something like government regulation. All right. So as technology has evolved, so has the need for controlling it. So if you want to build a new form of nuclear reactor or a new weapon system, anything that can affect national or international security, well, I'm pretty sure that the government is going to make that their project. But most every other form of technology actually depends on our choices, one way or another, for their inception and their continuance. Now, the economics of technology is an absolute eye popper. And the economics of technology have a significant effect on the choices that are made. For example, just one company, Apple, spent 26.25 billion US dollars on research and development in its 2022 fiscal year. Let's compare that to the spending that went to all sources of cancer research that same year. It was about 24.5 billion. Why the disparity? I could argue that there's considerably more money to be made by producing a product that yields huge profits. But the argument can also be made that it's because we, the consuming public as a whole, I'm not necessarily saying you or I personally, but the consuming public as a whole is far more interested in our mobile technology than we are in curing cancer. I mean, think about it. Could you imagine if people worldwide, rather than spending money on getting the newest cell phone, just one time put that money into cancer research? Think of it. The projected value of total mobile shopping sales for 2020 in the US alone was $338 billion. Consumerism drives technology. Put another way, what we choose to buy determines what manufacturers will choose to develop and build. So as we, the consumers, drive technology, so too do the companies that find ways to branch out from one aspect of technology into another. So their choices shape the face of technology as well. And as is the case with any powerful tool, there always seems to be someone who's willing to exploit its abilities in some way. So my phone can actually allow me to open or close my garage door remotely. I can even, my wife's car starts remotely. And so we have people that hack into cell phones, hack into cars, hack into all of these different things that control our homes for their own nefarious purposes. So then we need more technology to protect these avenues of access. that the technology provided. So we choose to use technology, and then we have to choose how we're going to protect ourselves from that technology. Ah, it's great stuff. Another way our choices affect technology is how we embrace and adapt to new technologies. All right. So, for example, Wayne spoke about being a Facebook addict, right? Social media is something that hit the scene and just took off. You know, when we think about screen time, it used to be television, right? In 2010, excuse me, in 2010, Americans watched, on average, excuse me, 4.5 hours of television every day. Today, the average American watches both television and streaming video for a total of more than 6 hours a day. It's an increase of a third, with streaming access surpassing television more each and every year. So, how we choose to use technology also has a tremendous impact on virtually every aspect of our life. I mean, it literally can bring financial upheavals in consumer markets. Online purchasing is becoming such a tremendous, tremendous part of the income of companies that it's having a very detrimental effect on brick and mortar businesses because we're choosing to shop more and more online. But I want to turn this thing around because we can probably do this forever talking about this side of it. But I want to turn it around to the ways in which technology affects our choices. Okay. The sheer volume of tech that's aimed at us each day, and I do mean aimed at us, we are indeed targeted by it, it's bound to have an effect on many, if not the vast majority of us. I'm sure that there are people in this world that don't feel its effect. Odds are they are nevertheless affected, though. But for us, email, text, online advertising tied to social media, commercials, software bots that scan your inbox, that note what your browsing trends are, on and on. All of these contribute to the onslaught of advertising that we are subjected to each and every day. And the effect on our choices? Well, how many products you'd never considered that you'd want or need have you considered simply because they were presented to you from one or more of these tech sources? I mean, there you are doing a little bit of surfing online, and this thing pops up that says, hey, have you looked at this? Hey, have you considered that? How often do you get sidetracked from whatever task you're doing online because something popped up on your feed and drew your attention? All right. I don't think when you were reading a newspaper or a magazine that if there was an advertisement that it completely threw you off and it took over your mind. No, you chose to read and say, oh, look, there's an advertisement. I can either skip it or I can read it. Doesn't quite happen that way, though, online. So we have to choose how we're going to deal with this. All right. If you get caught in the limited quantities available, going fast, available only today, you're going to be giving up the sensibility, the discernment to make a good choice. As much as I would have liked to have put information sharing at the top of the list of how tech affects our choices, I've got to say marketing really does push many more buttons. Nevertheless, information is now so widely available online that it has surpassed many print forms. I mean, newspapers and magazines, weather, sports, traffic, maps, directions. Wouldn't it be magnificent if ignorance would be addressed by the vastness of this information? Unfortunately, studies have found that while nearly 65% of the world's population have at their fingertips access to more information than many libraries could house, there are still countries with a literacy percentage of only 30%. Plus, the fact of the matter that information is available doesn't necessarily mean that people are using it. I don't think that there are actually any reliable numbers that could tell us how much time people spend accessing online learning, for example, as opposed to watching cats ride around on robot vacuum cleaners. There's another great technological advancement, the robot vacuum cleaner. Of course, as we've learned as a result of the COVID pandemic, we can provide virtually every form of learning and community online, and we extend our reach to nearly the entire world. Throughout the world, we chose to take classes online, have meetings, perform and attend ceremonies online, attend social gatherings, exercise classes, pursuing many forms of spiritual and religious expression, all made possible by technology. Okay. Let's see what you have to say here, Linda. Linda says, this week I bought the newest book by my favorite news person online because I heard about it on her TV show. I do love an old-fashioned book in my hand. I agree. There are definitely times that having the physical book makes a big difference. Fiona is suggesting that perhaps there is a culture-specific component to tech usage. Oh, I think that is absolutely true. I think that culture makes a difference. I think age makes a difference. I think economic capability makes a difference. So all of these things will definitely have an effect. The New Thought Media Network, it's a perfect example of how technology has made such a huge difference. It started during the pandemic, or at the beginning of the pandemic, as simply twice-a-day prayer sessions. We now have over 40 hours each and every week with music, meditation, prayer, conversation, education. We got it. We're bringing this to a worldwide audience with a worldwide team of ministers, practitioners, and presenters. Having access to this incredible treasure trove of information, glorious as it might be, it does still require that people choose to take advantage of the offerings. And a clear component of taking advantage of the information is the ability to see how it applies in your life. There are literally thousands and thousands of experts, both real and self-proclaimed, offering information about everything from what to eat to what ailment you might have. The problem is people often mistake information for knowledge. By that I mean, without an understanding of context or how the information applies and how it can be effectively used, it's not providing knowledge. Excuse me. Have you ever self-diagnosed using something like WebMD? Oh no, that twinge I felt. Oh, that might be something terrible. Oh no, I have 3 symptoms of pretty much every disease in their database. Like I said, information is not knowledge. Another huge area in which tech has shaped our choices daily is communication. Now, I'm old enough to remember rotary phones, and then the advent of push button phones, the first answering machines, the first mobile phones, which were actually about the size of a brick, and on to our present day smartphones, obviously, with cameras, activity monitors, and essentially all the computing power and capabilities that I have on my desktop computer. Consider the ways that these devices have changed not only how we communicate, but also how we prioritize and expend our time. Because if there's one thing that technology has not been able to do, it has not increased the number of hours in a day. We have moved from a culture in which our written correspondence, what we now refer to as snail mail, since it could potentially take weeks to send, receive, and respond compared to the instant access of email. All right. We have changed from a culture in which phone calls had to be planned in advance to ensure that the receiver would be there, to having answering machines, to the always accessible cell phone. Just the other day, I read an article that was talking about phone etiquette in our present paradigm. And it said, and I don't know if this surprised me or saddened me. It was one or the other. But it suggested that calling someone without first texting them to see if they're available is considered rude, that it's an intrusion. Seriously. You know, many years ago, a friend of mine had a sign on his telephone at home that said, "This device does not have a constitutional right to be answered." And the phone would ring, and if he wanted to answer it, he did. If he didn't, so it goes. And you know what? Cell phone doesn't have a constitutional right to be answered either. Of course, if you don't respond to a phone call or a text, it's not uncommon for some people in your life to simply inundate you with text messages. "Oh, hey, are you okay? What's going on? You know, I texted you 47 times and I didn't get a response." It's like, I wasn't anywhere near my phone. I was busy. Instant communication gratification. It's become like the way of living for so many people. I've got to say, I find it fascinating with all these tech upgrades. Now we have the ability to screen phone messages from the cell phone, just as if they're being recorded without actually answering the phone. Ah. Likewise, we now have the ability to edit messages and emails after we've sent them out. We get into this constant push and pull by which we want instant communication, but we recognize the importance of maybe we should be thinking things through. Personally, I responded to these changes by choosing to simply turn off my phone, or I place it in do not disturb mode. I've chosen not to read emails or social media before breakfast. Meal times, my cell phone sits in another room. In essence, I'm choosing to build boundaries, both for myself and for others. Now, I mentioned social media. I could probably do an entire show around social media. How many choices do you make based on what you have seen on social media? More importantly, how aware are you of how social media is affecting your choices? The face that people show on social media, it's based on what they want you to see, what they want you to know. For some people, it's about presenting only the best. For others, it's a dark reflection of their worries and their concerns. So how do you choose to respond? Okay. Do you compare someone else's highlight reel to your behind the scenes day-to-day churning? Are you choosing to seek joy, beauty, humor, sweetness? Or are you choosing to become just angrily mired in whatever it is that you disagree with? Do you use social media as a way to connect and share with others? I mean, it's called social media. It's not called anti-social media. Or do you use it as a bludgeon to bring people around to your way of thinking or to shame them for their very obvious errors in judgment? Do you present ideas and opinions in an online environment which you would not present face to face? Whether you're an influencer or a troll, a lurker, a content provider, or simply a content consumer, technology can challenge our discernment, integrity, and authenticity if we choose to allow it. There isn't an aspect of life that hasn't been affected by technology, as it has been for more than 200 years. I suppose you can say that virtually everything we've ever created is technology because it's so much far advanced from what had been. What we called technology then, what we call technology now, what we call technology in the future, obviously going to be quite a bit different. And I doubt that life will ever stop being turned upside down as we continue to create and evolve. The most important choice that I believe that I can make regarding technology is to remember that it is a tool that is meant to serve me, not the other way around. Whatever choices you make, folks, regarding technology, always choose what is in harmony with your values. Choose what is true to your sense of self. And choose to always look for ways that you can bring about the greatest good. That is a wonderful intersection of choice and technology. Well, that'll do it for today. Fiona says that it's a wonderful reminder that using tech is a personal choice for my well-being. Namaste. Indeed, indeed. Okay, so if there's something about choice and technology that you'd like to discuss further, or if you have, excuse me, if there's a topic that you would like to discuss, by all means, send me an email. Love to see it. I'm also available for practitioner sessions or coaching, for discussion, for prayer, all of those. You can contact me at zodimuro@gmail.com. Be more than happy to discuss or see what's going on. All right. Folks, I know I'm going over a little bit, but we're okay. I want you to make use of the incredible technology that we have here at newthoughtmedia.org. Right? There is so much going on. Oh, hi, Gary. You're very welcome. So as I had mentioned earlier, over 40 hours of programming Just a few of the things today, for example. Finding the Joy in the Journey is a wonderful show from a wonderful minister, Reverend Gina Kovario-Krupka. Today, her very special guest is Karen Drucker. 2 p.m. Mountain Time. The Vibrant Living Hour with practitioner Ken Ludwig. 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Reverend Brock Ford presents the Spiritual Toolkit. You know, what we do here on the New Thought Media Network is to bring the joy of new thought to the widest audience possible. To do this, it takes time, it takes talent, and yes, it takes treasure. So if you can, I'd invite you to go to ntmedia.org/donate. Help us make this a world that works for everyone. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Until we meet again, by all means, choose well, choose wisely. Namaste.
Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zoe Muro.